Okay. Welcome. This is the Testament base. And when the Sugi of Avadim, it came, the whole Sugi, nothing to do with Gittin, we're in the Sugi of Avadim, and the reason they came in is because all kinds of Tikkun Olam. And here, the last Mishnah, if every capture, then redeemed, does he go back to the master or does he go free? That was the Sugya. So we're getting on tangent in the Sugya. We're up to Amar Rav. Where does that go? Amar Rabba. Amar Rabba, Amar Rav. Amar Chesem with base. About 20 lines to the bottom. Maybe a bit more. Oh, looks like a lot more. Okay, but Amar Rabba, Amar Rav. Where did that go? Here it is. No? Okay. Amar Rabba, Amar Rav. If somebody consecrated his slave, he goes free. We did a few lines yesterday. If he consecrated a slave, he said, I raise a hektish. If you say on a table, I raise a hektish, the hektish goes to the hektish. If you say on an animal, I raise a hektish, sometimes it's a korban, sometimes it goes to the Beis HaMikdash. And here he was maktish his slave. So he says, it's another way of saying that he goes free. He didn't really maktish him. He really was freeing him. And why is that? How did he free him? My time. How do you see that on the words? You can't be makdish his body. By an animal, you can be makdish his body. By a table, you can be makdish the actual thing. But you can't be makdish him. He can't become holy. He's a person. He's a human being. You can't make him to become a korban or something like that. So that didn't. He couldn't have meant that. Doesn't make the words wouldn't have made sense. And maybe he meant that he's makdish his value, whatever the value. I want to give to hektish the value of the eved. He didn't say that. L'dmei lo komar. He didn't say the word l'dmei. He should have said, I'm makdish his value. If he said, I'm makdish the eved, he's being makdish the eved. And he can't be makdish the eved. So it must be the third choice. The lehevi am kodesh komar. He meant that he should become part of the holy nation, which means another way of saying that he should become Jewish. And eved Kanani is like, called it a semi-Jew. He has a lachas, but he's not fully Jewish. But when he gets freed, that's when he becomes Jewish. It's like a ger, then he becomes like a convert. So like you say in the morning, Shlo Asani Goy, Shlo Asani Yoved, that eved is a bit more than a goy, but he's not yet a full Jew. So since, what do we call it? Process of elimination. He couldn't have meant that he's makdish the actual eved. He didn't say that he's makdish the value. So he's makdish the eved. What does that mean? He made him kadosh. He said he should become an am kadosh. That's a way of saying that he's freeing him. So Rabbah, in the name of Rav, said if somebody said on his eved that I'm makdish him, he meant to say that he's an am kadosh. So Rabbi Avrohom asks in the whole Masechta, then ask him what he meant. Yes, he didn't. Yeah. Okay, but it is interesting because, like, might have never even dreamed, that I'm kadosh, like that what he says when he wants to free him. Okay, you can tell from Mesiach Fitumo, check it out, investigate. But that's what the Gemara says. We figure out what he meant. He couldn't have meant that he's actually consecrating the eved, because he can't, the body of the eved. He didn't say that he's doing just the value. So he must have meant that he's making him holy by freeing him. So he goes free. Rav Yosef on Rav Yosef quoted Rav differently. It means the machlok is Rav and Rav Yosef, what Rav said. Rav quoted Rav saying, Hamakdish Av Yotzel L'Cheirus. Rav Yosef quotes Rav saying a little different, more simple. Hamafker Av Yotzel L'Cheirus. If he's mocking him, he said, I'm making you hefker. So he's disowning him. He has rights. He has financial rights over there. But then now that he disowned him, so he goes free. Mandama maktish kolshkin mafker. Mandama mafker ava maktish lo. Dilma l'dmei kamar. So everyone will agree if he said hefker. No one's arguing about that. That Rabbah who said quoted Rabbah saying maktish, that was a big chiddush. That the word maktish is another way of saying he should be am kadosh. He should become Jewish. But surely if he said openly that I'm being mafker him, that means that I'm freeing him. Everyone agrees that if someone is mafker his slave, Rav said yosel l'cheirus. The question is, if he said I'm makdish him, what does that mean over there? Rabbah quoted Rabbah saying he meant to say that he becomes Jewish and comes free, and Rav Yosef will say he doesn't mean that. Then he does mean to say that l'dmei. The issue of l'dmei here, just to zoom out a second, Rashi makes a big issue in the Gemara, like a yesod principle that the Gemara is dealing with, which I don't see openly in the Gemara, but Rashi uses it very much as part of the sugya. So I'll just say what I got. I didn't get all the details, but there's an interesting point in Rashi. There's a way to be makdish the value of the slave. that means you didn't makdish you weren't makdish the slave at all. You go to the slave market. Like someone would say, I want to be makdish the value of my house. So you go to the market, you ask the broker, how much is this house worth? That's how much I was makdish money. I wasn't makdish the house at all. You go to the slave market, you ask how much is this slave worth? And that's how much money he was makdish. He wasn't makdish the evidence at all. That's one way of looking at the value. There's another way of saying that I'm makdish the slave to be sold. That is something about, not that his body becomes holy, but his body becomes holy for its value. There are two ways to look at it. So when he's just to point out that when he's makdish the value, he wasn't makdish the Eved at all. Like the Eved continues working as regular. You don't do anything. You just bring you can't even makdish the body. You cannot. But you could be makdish him to be sold. He should be sold on the slave market, and the money it goes to hekdesh. Someone Erchin. Erchin is Erchin. Erchin has to do with the age and the gender. Damim has to do with the value. That is makdish the value. There are two ways to do that. You could either makdish just the value, or you can makdish it to be sold. You can makdish. You can't makdish a free man to be sold. That's not. So you makdish a piano. So the gizbar comes up. They send the hektish truck. They pick up the piano. And then they sell whatever they want to do with it. Maybe they need a piano outside the base of Mikdash, for. I don't think so, but but that's when they makdish the actual thing. But by the Eved can become actually holy. That's what the Gemara started off, that you can't make his body holy. He's not an animal or a table. So the choices were going to be that the makdish his value. There's another thing Rashi keeps on bringing up, that he's makdish him to be sold. He's makdish him, but that has something to do with him. So as we go through the Gemara, maybe we'll see these two pointers if it makes a difference. Maybe in the Gemara you don't see it. The favors. Yeah, but even that is something that he still has to do with him. He's makdish the Eved to be sold. There's another choice to say that by the to be not the body is hektish, but he's hektish to be sold. Like you're saying, like a piano. So it could be. It could be. This is Rashi seems to be saying that there's a difference if you makdish just the value. That means there's nothing to do with the Eved. You just makdish. You bring the assessor to say how much is worth, but nothing to do with him. Just a way of knowing money. There's another way of saying that he should be sold. The Eved is now there is an aspect of property in him that he could be sold on the slave market, and the value is going to. But I was makdish him that the gizbar is going to come and take him to the slave market and sell him the same way that he's makdish a piano probably. That he takes the piano to the market and he sells it. So here he takes the Eved to be sold, and the value is going to go to hektish. So Rashi points out there are two ways of the money issue. There's a hektish, the meya Eved, or there's the Eved limacher. So I just said, Rashi, I don't know. One is that if we makdish a house, and then the house or the piano, kids keep it the piano. Makdish a piano. What does makdish do with a piano? They sell it and they get the money. There's another way of saying I'm makdish the value of the piano. You don't then you won't makdish the piano at all. Right. This is another way of saying money. Instead of saying like $10,000, I'm going to say the value. Whatever the value is. I don't know. Simple. The question is if the thing became hektish at all, or it's just a way of counting money. Not that I can hektish the thing. So in the point of the May Eved, there are two ways to look at it. Some place in the sugi maybe it's going to make a difference. I just pointed out to Rashi. Let's go further. Where are we up to? So we had Machlokes Rabbah and Rav Yosef. What Rav held about makdish avdo was another way of saying that he should go free. Mafkir, everybody holds that he goes free. This might be like a parenthesis for a couple of lines. When somebody disowns the Eved and the monetary aspect of his ownership was disowned, but the Eved still has a status. We spoke about this a couple of times that an Eved Kanani is not allowed to marry a Jewish girl, only if he becomes a Jew like a ger. And here, if the monetary part of his ownership is disowned, does he still have the status of an Eved, or does it automatically go up to become a free man and he's allowed to marry a Jewish woman? And just to point out that in Amar Aleph yesterday, we had Shmuel that said Evedish. The pasuk says Eved ish miknas kesef has the extra word ish, and the Gemara says over there means to say Shmuel says that he's only considered an eved if he has a master. Eved that has a ish, that he has a master over him. But if his own master, automatically he's not an eved, then the status goes up. That's Shmuel. And now we're going to see in a right away that Rav argues. That both of them would mean Makdish and Mafkir. It goes free, like Rav said. But Tzarech get Shechur, that means that it doesn't know like Shmuel. Shmuel and Amman Aleph said that when somebody doesn't have a master, he automatically loses the status of an eved. He's not a halachic eved at all. He becomes completely free. But Rav here argues and says that you split between the status and ownership. Even though he has no owner, he's not an evedish, but still he has a status of an eved, and he can't marry until he's going to get Shechur. He has to get the document of liberation that makes him to become a completely free man. But that was a side point. Back to the subject, we said a question about Makdish. Rabbah quoted Rav that if somebody said, I'm consecrating my slave, he meant to say, I'm making him a holy nation. It's another way of saying that I'm freeing him. Amar Rabbah, we have a kasha on my own statement. I said a statement in the name of Rav. I have a kasha from a Raisa. He's asking a kasha on himself. If somebody consecrated his estate, and amongst the estate there's also slaves, he owns slaves. He's makdish his whole estate, and amongst his estate, besides all other kinds of things, he also had avadim. So what's the status of what do you mean to say about the avadim? Einag is born Rishon Lahotzi and Lacher is the Gizbar, the one who's the treasurer, the charge of Hektish. He doesn't have permission to make him free because it's Hektish. It's not making him free. Hektish is making avadim free. She could sell it. They go to say he sells the avadim. And then the one who buys him, the Hektish gets money. That's what the man wanted, that the Hektish should get the money. And then the one who buys him from Hektish, he has the right to free him if he wants to. Rabbi that if the Eved himself has a way of getting money, usually an Eved can't get any money, whatever money he has belongs to his master. But if there's a way that the Eved gets money, Rashi says as if somebody's going to give him money without if the Eved has a way to get money, he could also buy himself out, and it's like he sold it. It's not considered pidyon. It means that it shouldn't look bad like if Hektish is freeing anybody. Hektish doesn't have the right to free him because Hektish has to make the money on it. The Gizbar can't make somebody free on, if it's his own slave, he can make him free, but he can't make Hektish's slave free. But anyway, what do you see from all this? You see that when it talks about that he was makdish to Eved, you look at it as if the Eved is Hektish. You talk to the Gizbar. The Gizbar is the one you have to bring to the table. According to Rav, if I'm right, that Rav says that with makdish Avdo, it doesn't mean that he's Hektish at all. It just means that he goes free. He should become Am Kodesh. He should become a holy nation. So it has nothing to do with the Gizbar. So this is a kasha on me. Tanakama says that you have to sell him. The Hektish sells him. Rebbe says he could buy himself out himself, but everybody holds that there's an issue here of being Hektish. And Rav was quoted as saying that he goes free. That's the kasha. The answer is Mastisn Karamas Alei the Rav Tanahu Palik. Yes, in kasha from a Brisa or Mishnah, a Brisa against Rav. Rav has the authority of a Tana. He's not arguing on a Brisa also. So this you find sometimes not too often. The Gemara tries not to make Rav arguing on Tanoim, but if need be. Because we don't fall off our chair if there's a brisa against Rav, because Rav is allowed to argue. Rav has the authority to argue on a brisa also. So it comes out that according to Rav Yosef, Rav didn't say anything against the brisa. Rav just said, "I'm after Avdi Yosef." But Rav quoted Rav as saying, "I'm makdish Avdi Yosef." When somebody consecrates his eved, it means to say, "I'm making him free." So there's a kasha on that from a brisa, and Rav's going to have to argue. If Rav said that, then he's arguing on a brisa. Toshma, another kasha on Rabbah, who said that someone's makdish a slave, he goes free. Here it says, Ach kol cherem, that's a pasuk, that somebody who is machrim. Machrim is a way, we use the word cherem for excommunication, but the word cherem really is another way of also making something hektish. The pasuk says, Me adam ad be'ma lo yipodeh. Over there it says, most you must, but we're going to say that Rosh Hashanah is talking about that he's makdish something with the word cherem. So it says over there that a person could be machrim or adam. That's part of the pasuk also. I don't know where to find the pasuk over here on the where do we find the pasuk? Is it on the right or on the left? Must be on the, here it is. Ach kol cherem. Asher yachrim ish laHashem mikol hashalom yadamu be'imo umastei achuz asor lo yimocher v'lo yigael kol cherem kodesh kadosh hu laHashem. Any cherem that somebody was machrim to Hashem from all that he has, humans, animals, fields, should not be sold or redeemed. It's Kodesh Kadoshim to Hashem. So it's a way of being makdish something. And it says here, Me'odam, that a person was makdish a human. So the Brisa says that's referring to an Eved. That's what the Brisa is going on. So to go back to the place, Achal Cherem Me'odam. That's all part of the pasuk. Achal Cherem Me'odam Ad Behemah. The word Me'odam is part of the pasuk. So the Brisa says, Eilu Avada V'Shefchosa Baktanim. The pasuk that says that there's a way of being makrim people, that's talking about the slaves and maidservants. So what do you see? That the person's machrim a Eved and it becomes holy. And it's against Rav, who says if someone's makdish an Eved, it's a way of making him Jewish. That you must say it's talking about that he said openly that I'm makdish the value. If he didn't say that he's being makdish him to become Am Kadosh. There's a small kasha, maybe even a big kasha, on the two kashas we just asked. Rabbi said in the name of Rabbi, if someone says I'm makdish my slave, he means that he should become an Am Kadosh. And the one has two kashas, and the both kashas don't make sense. One kasha was he's makdish his whole estate, and they are avodim. You see that he's kadosh. Over there, of course, he didn't mean that he's Jewish because he didn't say my slave is a kadosh. He said my slave is kadosh. You mind me, my slave is Jewish, and that means that he was mafkir him. But here he's makdish his whole estate, and his whole estate he does mean kadosh. So you see, he's talking about hektish. He's not talking about making somebody Jewish. He doesn't make his field Jewish. He doesn't make his donkey Jewish. So over there, surely the kasha is not a kasha l'chora. Also, this kasha they said machrim. He said it's chayrim. When you say it's chayrim, it doesn't mean Am Kadosh. The word hektish can mean Am Kadosh, but the word chayrim doesn't mean Am Yisrael is not called chayrim. Am Yisrael is called kadosh. So these two kashas l'chora need explanation. Maybe there is an explanation, but just to point out that the kasha superficially is a difficult kasha. Rabbi should just say that when he's makdish everything, or if he's used the word chayrim that I'm not talking about. I'm talking about if he just said I'm makdish a slave, maybe he means to say that he's a kadosh, he should become Jewish. Okay, we'll leave it aside. So the Gemara answers the second kasha that he said lidmei. If he said lidmei, he didn't say lidmei, then lidmei lo kamar. He didn't say the word mei. But if he after say my skin that he said the word mei, I'm being makdish his value. The Gemara says if you're happy with the second kasha, so then the first kasha also, he didn't have to be so extreme and said that Rav's arguing on the Brisa. How come the first kasha you held up, you gave up, and you said you're right, it's against Rav, what can I do? Rav's gonna have to argue on this Brisa. You could have said that the first Brisa is also talking about that he said to me, that he said I'm being makdish it, it's money, it's value. But then the Gemara says no, you can't put that into the Brisa. Because Yachi Einak Gizborin Rishon Lo Tzion Lecherus, Gizborin Mai Videtayu. This is what we started saying when someone says that I'm being makdish the value of the Eved. It's nothing to do with the Eved. The Eved is out of the picture. The Eved is still in the field working. Adas was makdish's value. You bring the assessor to see how much it's worth. What does it say that the Gizborin can't make him free? Of course the Gizborin can't make him free. He's not new with the hektish. He does was makdish the money. And the Su, and that is another problem. Was that hektish is allowed to sell him, and those buyers can make him free. Those people, how could they free him? He never became Kodesh. He just was makdish the value. The Su, and a third problem, Rabbi Yomer Omer Ani Afonos and Admei Asmo B'Yotzem, if Neishu Kamorcholo, the Brisa says that Eved could buy himself out from hektish. Who is all this buying out? The Gizbar can't sell him, and other people can't sell him, and he can't buy himself because if you say Lidmei, Ma'amid Neishu Kamorcholo. If it's only was makdish's value, it's nothing to do with selling anybody. So that's why you can't say the Brisa is talking about that he said I'm doing the demay. But the second Brisa that said chayrim that the avodim become hektish, over there it's talking about that he said lidmei, and doesn't mean that the eved became hektish. It just means that it was makdish the value. So what do we have so far? Rabbi and Rav Yosef, Rabbi, everyone holds mafkir avda yotzim l'cheirus. If he disowned the monetary ownership, so then he goes free. The Gemara said, but he doesn't still need to get shechur. Rav holds he needs to get shechur. Shmuel yesterday holds he does not need to get shechur. And Rav said chiddush in the name of Rav that not only mafkir, also makdish avdo. Even though he used the word hektish, and it usually sounds like consecration, he's not consecrating. It just means to say, I'm making him Jewish. If he would have meant to say that he's makdish the value, he would have said so. Either he's makdish the value, or he's makdish him to sell it, that the money should go to hektish. But otherwise, he means that I'm making him Jewish. One line up from the bottom. Tashma. Makdish avdo osev v'ochel. If somebody consecrated his eved, the eved is still allowed to work and eat. That even though he's hektish, you might think he can. Whatever he does is hektish, so he's not allowed to eat his workings. Shelo hektish alodam. If he wasn't makdish him, he wasn't makdish him. He only was makdish's value. So the kasha is on Rav. Rav says that he goes free. Makdish avdo doesn't mean that he's makdish at all. And the Gemara number Aleph. Go on to the next page. Oh, so that's a kasha. Kasha, also another kasha on Rabba. Rabba said in the name of Rabba, if someone's makdish a slave, he means to say that he's making him free. And here it says that he's hektish, but he's makdish dama. The answer is Hamani Rab Meir. The Gemara could have said Hachamai Skin that he said with me, but the Gemara has easier. That here Rab Meir the Amar Ena the Motzi Dvav Batala, that a person doesn't say things that don't make sense. And if he says something that doesn't make sense, we will put sense into his words. Now the question is why here doesn't make sense. Rabbi said that he means to say he's Jewish. Makdish Avdo is Am Kadosh. Why does the Gemara not say that's called a Batala? He must have meant something. He must have meant Ludmei. Why does he mean Ludmei? Because he wouldn't have said something that doesn't make sense. But he made some sense. He was Am Kadosh. So Rashi seems to answer that when he talks to Hektish, when he mentions Hektish, he means something to Hektish. He's not going to say something about the word Hektish and mean something about going free. And the Gemara now says that even though I said that he goes free, he means Am Kadosh, but Meir wouldn't say that. Meir would say, put in the word Damim, because when someone talks to Hektish, he means something Hektish is going to get out of it. He's not going to say words that sound like Hektish and is not going to Hektish. That's what Rashi says. He's a slave, and he's a slave, but right, and but doesn't mean that his handiwork is going to become hektish because he was makdish's value. And Rabba said that he goes free. That's a kasha on Rabba. Rabba said makdish Shabbat is not a way of saying he should be a holy Jew. That was the kasha. That's what we're attacking. We have a third attack already. So the answer is Rameir will argue on me because we don't like Rameir. Rameir holds when a person says something like Rashi in the top line, "Ein the most dvav hektish." And fourth line, the chivin the veloshin hektish aktishay, he means the ledamav, the damav alai. So Rabbi is saying that I didn't mean according to Meir. Meir says that when you talk to hektish, you talk very seriously, and you're not going to say something to hektish which is not going to hektish. So you have to put into his words that I meant I'm going to be makdish's value, but not according to Meir. He meant to free him. He meant to say he should be a holy nation. We're going to back up this point that this is going according to Meir. The Brisa says not only will you makdish his slave, could he still continue to work? Someone's makdish himself also. He's makdish himself, a free man. He's makdish himself. He could also continue working and eating because it only meant to be makdish his value. When a person says, I'm holy, what does he mean to say? That I'm going to give my value to hektish, even though he didn't say the word. If a Meir is the author, so since he said something that doesn't make sense, he said, I'm holy. What do you mean I'm holy? It doesn't mean that. He might have meant something else, I'm holy. But if you say that he meant something about hektish, according to Meir, it's good. That when he says I'm holy, he must have meant something that's going to be. What does it mean? He can't make himself into a korban. So what did he mean to say? That my money, I'm being makdish my money, I'm being makdish my value. So then it makes sense that not only by an effort, but a person on himself, on his own also, he says about himself, that I am going to be, I'm already makdish esatzmi, he meant to say my value. Eli, that's Rav Meir. Meir is the one who says on the top line, and even though the words don't make sense, we'll make sense out of them. He said something, right, because he wouldn't have meant to say nothing. So according to Rav Meir, when a person says that my slave is hektish, can make his slave hektish, or I am hektish, can make yourself hektish. So he meant money. Eli, Yamat Rabbanan, that Rabbanan tolerate that he said nonsense. Something that doesn't make sense, doesn't make sense. So Bishlam Abdul Meko, you could say that when he says I'm making him hektish, you could make sense over there that the words itself means that he meant for his value. But a person, a free man, is not called money. So it's very hard, according to Rabbanan, to say that he meant to say hektish. He doesn't mean my money. He didn't. According to Meir, say at the end of the Moshe Batala, that something that doesn't make any sense, you put sense into it. And he says he meant the value. But according to Rabbanan, you don't have that yesod. We'll say that he says something that doesn't make sense, so he shouldn't be hektish. So the Gemara is happy with all this. That according to Meir, we put into it the word lidmei. We put into his words the word lidmei. What happens so far? Just to zoom out again to take reckoning of where we're holding. That there was everyone holds in the name of Rav Hamafker Avdo Yotzal Cherus because he disowned him. Over there, Agav says Torah Ket Shichur in order to make him mutter to marry. They take off his status of an evet. But there was a question about Hamakdish Avdo. Rav Yosef doesn't hold of any chidushim. He meant to say that I'm being makdish him to be sold or his value, whatever of the two. And Rabbah said no. He meant to make him a holy nation. It's another way of saying that he's going to be Jewish, and he also meant to free him. The Gemara thinks that I found a machlokes tanam about this issue of someone's makdish zeved, if he becomes holy or not, if he becomes free or not. Lema ketanoi hamakdish avdo ein moalin bo. Rav Shimon ben Gamliel over moalin besaro. If somebody was, moalin means that there's meal because he becomes hektish and you're not allowed to benefit from hektish. So here it says if someone was makdish his slave, does it become usher to be benefit from the eved? Is mila or not? So Tanakama says there's no mila. Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says there is mila. Agabi says there's mila in his hair. What does mila in his hair mean? How about mila on the whole eved? That's going to be coming up in a couple of lines. But first, that machlok is if there's mila at all. Why should there be no mila? So we might say because it's the way of saying that he's free. He didn't mean anything about hektish. He meant that he's free. And Rav Shimon ben Gamliel says that he's not free. There's some kind of hektish is happening over here. We seem to see a machlok is tanoim. If when someone says my slave is hektish, if he really meant hektish or he meant something else, machlokis. My labakim miflagi is the machlokis not if he meant to be the ma'asav kadosh or ma'asav lo kadosh. That one Tana holds that he consecrated him. The other one says he didn't consecrate him. If he didn't consecrate him, what did he do? L'chora, he made him to be free. He meant am kadosh. But the Gemara says then it should have said that. It should have been more straightforward. Meila is only a ramification of being holy. That's not the way you talk. If you want to talk if something's holy or not, you don't talk about if there's mila. But Tisbra, high more than bo, ain't more than bo. Is that the way to say it? That there's mila, high kodesh, vein kodesh, mi boy. You should have said, is it holy? The fact that there's mila is only a result if it's a kodesh, and if the real machlokes is not if there's mila, but if there's hektish, it shouldn't have spoken about mila. You should have spoken about is it hektish or not. Speak straightforward. Is it hektish or not? So that can be the pshat. Everybody holds that it's holy. If the machlokes is if there's mila, that means that it surely is holy, and there's some technical reason why there shouldn't be mila. Everybody must hold that the eved is kadosh, not like Rabbah said. Rabbah said he's not holy. Rabbah said that it's a way of freeing him. Everyone seems to argue over here. The technicality that is halacha that ain't mila bekarkos, that karka real estate there's no meila on it. Whatever the reason is, there's no meila on karka. Only if it's something which is affordable, a metaltalin, chattel. Is that the way you say it? Chattel. So that's only those that metaltalin over there. That's something that is meila, but it's hektish. You have karka which is hektish, but there's non-meila. And metaltalim is hektish and meila. So that would be the machlokas. But you can't stick into this machlokas if it's hektish or free, because then they shouldn't have spoken about meila. It should have spoken. If anybody wants to, then they shouldn't have spoken about it as meila. They should have spoken about it as hektish. So here it says everybody else that it is hektish. Seems to be against Rabbah, and the machlokas is a technicality if there's evidence considered karka and it's not going to be meila on karka or not. The Gemara is still not happy. That's still a kasha. What is talking about here? That was very strange. That Tanakama says there's no mila, and he says there's meila. How does it go again? More than basara, right? Why is talking about the hair? You want to say there's mila? Say there's mila on the whole body. What's that to do with the hair? So lift the gufo. We have to narrow it down even more. Everybody holds that it's holy, and everybody holds that it's considered karka. We're going off the subject now because we came out that everybody holds that it is hektish. Rabbah says not hektish. Makdish Avdo is not a way of saying it should be a holy nation. So everyone's against him. Everyone holds that it is kadosh, and everyone holds that Avdo kimekar dami, and therefore there should be no meila. So why should the hair be different than the rest of the body? It's hair which is supposed to be cut. It's already long hair, and it has a appointment by the barber already that he has to cut it off. Do you say that it's considered as if it's cut off? Something which is omed, something which is on deck to be cut off from mechuber. Right now it's mechuber, it's connected to him. Here happens to be his hair. The Gemara is going to talk about right away about a field. Also, you have things that are omed to be harvested, to be reaped. Is that considered that it's still mechuber or not? So we tried, but it didn't work. We tried to say mechuber here if someone's makdish and never if it's holy or not. It didn't work. Everybody in this brayso happens told that he is holy, and not that it's going to become holy that they can put him on bear or something, but enough is sold that he's going to be sold for hektish, and there is mila, like anything that you makdish a table. So there's mila, and the hektish will take it and sell it. Then the money will be used for hektish, and it comes out that the eved is also the same thing. This price holds the eved is going to be sold for hektish, but till he's sold and he's still hektish. So then There's Mila, but happens to be a side point that he's considered Karka, there's no Mila on Karka. But his hair, which is made to be cut, and the hair is worth something, I guess for a shekel, whatever it is, whatever they're going to use the hair for, they used to use it also to put into cement. That it's they used to use the hair to make the cement stronger. Whatever they use, whatever its value is, so there's Mila in the hair if it's considered cut off. And this machlok, something which is on deck to be cut off, is considered cut off already. Now the Gemara goes on to a side point. We're going on to this cruise now about something which is only to be cut off if it's considered cut off already. And that the Gemara brings this machlok is about hair, which is only to be cut, if it's considered cut already. We find a similar machlokes, not about hair, but about produce that's only to be harvested. The Tan of Meir Omer Yesh Tavam Shem Kekaka Ben Kekaka. Then Chachamim Modem Lord. Meir says there are some things that are karka, but it's not karka, and the Chacham don't agree. And the Gemara is going to talk about something. This is going to be the point that it's karka, but it's not karka. Ketzad Esek Tunos Masati Love. I gave you over 10 vines that were laden with grapes. Some kind of modem miktas. The halach is if somebody says you owe me $100 and he says no, I only owe you 50. That's a modem miktas. So he has to swear that he only owes him 50. The nitva. How do you say the nitva? The one being demanded for him. The plaintiff, the one who's being. There's a claim. There's a plaintiff. Who's the other one? Who's the shekinegdo? The defendant. The defendant has to swear that he. Let's make instead of 50, I'll say 25 and 75 to make it clear who. One of them says you owe me 100. He says no, I only owe you 75. So he has to swear that he only owes 75. That's called a modem miktas. But there's a halacha that karka, you don't swear on karka. If the issue is karka, you owe me this piece of land. He says, no, I only a quarter of the land. So he doesn't have to swear. So here, I'm telling him you do swear, on karka you don't swear. So here's going to be the question. Here they're arguing about the grapes that are supposed to be harvested. So, right, is it considered karka or metaltalin? So, Rav Meir says that he has to swear because Rav Meir looks at it like it's already metaltalin. The fact that it was laden with grapes and the grapes are supposed to be harvested, so it's considered metaltalin, and you do swear on metaltalin. Since it's mechuber, so it's considered karka, and you don't swear on karka. Talking about grapes that are ready to be harvested. If it's grapes that are still unripe, then surely it's considered karka. But here it's already butzer. It's on deck to be harvested. Rav Meir says that's considered already cut. Rabbanan say that it's still considered karka. So the machlokes about here, that's on the person's head. Is it considered part of the person or not? Before we're speaking about the Eved, if there's Mila, the Eved is Mila. The Eved is hektish, but there's ein Mila, but the Eved is considered karka. As far as Mila, that there's no karka, there's no Mila on the Eved, but the hair, which is all made to be cut, is it considered already cut? So it seems to be this machlokes. But Meir says it's considered cut, and the Rabbanan say not. The Gemara says that maybe it's not exactly the same case. I feel the same Rav Meir. Even Rav Meir says that the produce, the grapes, which are only to be harvested, are considered harvested. Maybe the hair is not considered cut. But Rav Meir says it's already time to harvest the grapes. If you leave it attached, it's just going to get worse. So there, the fact that it's only to be harvested, we look at it like it's harvested. It has no connection to the ground. It's not anymore. The ground is not beneficial to it at all. So therefore, he holds that as considered cut. But the hair, as long as it stays on the head, it's getting more. It's growing more. There's nothing's getting ruined about the fact that there's no problem. The fact that it's still connected to the head. So over there, could be everybody holds that it's considered connected. This all was a bonus just to get back to where we did. We went on a tangent, another tangent, a cruise. It got very exciting. But the issue we're talking about is if someone's makdish a slave is another way of saying that I'm making him a holy nation and he's freeing him, or that he meant to be makdish him for his value. Either he should be sold or just the value. And Rabbah said in the name of Rav that he's meant to make him holy. But from his words, we didn't hear the word made. So we just hear that he's making him free. And the Gemara had kashas on it. We had three kashas on it. 1, 2, 3, 4. The first one, the Gemara said Rav Tanu Polig. Second one, it says Hachab my skin of the May. that there Rav agrees if he said beferish may. The top kasha the Gemara said that Rav Meir holds Eina the Motzi Dvar Batala, and therefore he meant may. And then there was a fourth kasha. The Gemara thought had a machlokes, but here everybody the Gemara said seems to argue and say that it's hektish, not that he freed him, but he made him hektish. And the question was about meila, that the car if it's considered karka, but the hair is only to be cut, and therefore machlokes if it's meila on the hair or not. But our main subject was this statement that maybe according Rabbi said in the name of Rab that maybe when he's makdish, he meant to say that he should be free. And we had all the riots against him. The more continues. Mila means that if somebody benefits from hektish, he's chayiv a korban and that avera. And the question is, if that's also if someone was makdish a slave and the slave became holy, so maybe there's mila, not a lot of benefit from the eved, and maybe if he did, so there's chayiv mila. Said that we hold the eved, even though he's hektish, but he's considered karka, so there's mila. But the hair, which is only to be cut, maybe it's considered metaltam, and there will be mila. But Rabbah against all of this, because Rabbah says that when he's makdish and eved, he was makdish him at all. He just meant to say that he's free. The Gemara continues. Came back from the cruise, back to the main subject, back to the main track. Kisalik Rav Chir Bar Yosef. When Rav Chir Bar Yosef came from Babel Teretz Yisrael, Amalai Shmaita the Rav came to Rav Yochanan. He said over Rav's halacha to Rav Yochanan. Rav said, "We're going now. We forgot about hektish already. Hektish was a question. We had many kashas on it. But mafkir Rav though, Yatzel L'Cheir is surely Rav said that. That is mafkir a slave. If he disowned the slave, so now he goes free." And they told Rav Yochanan, Rav Yochanan was in Eretz Yisrael. Rav was in Babel. They told Rav Yochanan, Rav Chir Bar Yosef was traveled from Babel to Eretz Yisrael. He told Rav Yochanan that Rav said, "Mafkir Rav Yatzel L'Cheir." Amalei, so Rav Yochanan said, "Amar Rav Hachi." Rav said that. Very surprised. Rav said that. So why are you so surprised about it? Rav Yochanan also was like that. Rav Yochanan doesn't know like that. It sounds from his amazement that he was so surprised. Rav said such a thing. But Rav Yochanan himself says it. So it's the same as Rav. Why was he surprised? That he says if someone disowns his friend, his slave, so the slave goes free because he disowned him. But he still needs to get shechur. He does need to get shechur in order that he should become mutter to marry Yibas Yisrael. He has to get his status raised. So he needs to get shechur to make him free. So Rabbi Yochanan said the same thing. So and Rav also said the same thing. Rav yesterday, not yesterday, a few minutes ago, that we asked after we said the mafki of Dosel Acheris, we said does he need to get shechur? He said yes. You remember Shmuel from yesterday said does not need to get shechur. There's only evedish. If he doesn't have a master, he's not a slave. But Rav argued on that. So Rabbi Yochanan is the same exact as Rav. So why is Rabbi Yochanan surprised? He was not amazed, surprised that someone said such a thing that he doesn't hold up. On the contrary, he was very happy and surprised that Rav says like me. Oh, very good. He didn't know. He didn't know that he had somebody that's backing him up. So very happy. Some say a different version that they didn't tell him the end of Rav. It means Rav really said of the Yasal. And Rabbi Yochanan also said like that, but they didn't say that Rav. They didn't say the whole statement. They just said that Rav says a mafka of the Yasal Acheres. They didn't say that Rav said a mafka of the Yasal Acheres with Tzarech Get Shechur. So that's why he's wondering about it. But lo say more kamei amalei. So therefore, Rabbi Yochanan said, "Well, the Omer Rav Tzarech Get Shechur." Did Rav not say also he needs to get shechur? It sounded a little bit that he was arguing. So they told him yes that he does need to get shechur. So we have Rav and Rabbi Yochanan both of them say mafka of the Yasal Acheres with Tzarech Get Shechur. And we had Shmuel yesterday that argued and says that if he goes free monetarily, so he doesn't even need to get shechur anymore. So fine, Rav and Rabbi Yochanan say the same thing. Rabbi Yochanan l'tamei, we find, and that's what it finishes off to say. Rabbi Yochanan l'tamei, Rabbi Yochanan mafkav the Yasal Acheres with Tzarech Get Shechur. Rabbi Yochanan was surprised that Rav didn't say Tzarech Get Shechur because Rabbi Yochanan says he does need to get shechur. So he was surprised Rav didn't say so. But then they told him, "You're right." Rav said that also. We didn't finish saying the whole sentence. Rav says that if he disowns a slave, he goes free and he doesn't even need to get shechur. Gufa. To go back what we just finished learning, okay, that's the halacha that that's what Rav and Rabbi Yochanan say, that if somebody disowns a slave, he goes free and but he does need to get shechur in order to get out of the status of an eved, in order to be able to marry a Jewish girl. What does Rabbi Shimon say? We're talking about Avrohom now, so I'd be surprised if there's a Tana involved. I don't know. I don't know who you're referring to, but so far we have Rav and Avrohom and Shmuel argues. Shmuel says that once he has no master over him, he doesn't need a kasher from either. So Akasha now, Aisra Babalula, Gershames, a convert that died. He has no relatives. It means a convert that he gets married and has children, so he has relatives. But if he didn't get married, so he has no relatives. Every Jew has relatives, but a ger doesn't have any relatives. So what happens to his estate after he dies? It becomes hefker. There's no owner, so everybody can come and take. The ger might want to give it to somebody before he dies because else everyone's going to take it. But that's what happened. Or theoretically, that's what happens. So ger shemesu bisbazu Yisrael mechasav. Everybody took whatever they wanted. And amongst the estate of the ger, there were slaves. And now the ger, the mechta died. It's a very interesting situation that all of his estate is ownerless and everyone's allowed to come and take this. But the Eved, no, the Bezdin stays away. Bezdin kills everyone. They also would like to get something as individuals, not as Bezdin. But there's no one to take care of it, and it's Hefker. Somebody, as if somebody would have disowned this property. So anybody can come and take it. So the ger, if he didn't take care of his business before he died, so his estate is Hefker, and anyone can take it. But here, in his estate, we're Avadim. So there's very interesting thing. They're not worse than anybody else. They can make a kinyan on themselves. It means we're not doing anything. As soon as he becomes ownerless, this Eved had an owner, and his owner died, and there's nobody that yarshins, there's no inheritors. So they become, so what does Mishachbar mean? Oh, so Chaim Dov is asking that even though they have no owners, but could they marry a Bas Yisrael? Did they need anything to get their status upgraded? So this we should be able to. So that's what we spoke about. We said Machlokes. We said Shmuel says that someone. Yes. They don't even have to do anything. They automatically own themselves. They made a chazak in them. They grab themselves. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to hold on to yourself. So everything else, the piece of land, the table, whatever, the ger, because master was together, and now he died, so there's no owner, so he owns himself. And Chaim Dov was talking about very nice. He doesn't have any owner, but does he get upgraded in status? So he said so far. Machlokes Rav and Shmuel, Rav and Avrohom against Shmuel. Shmuel says Evedish. If you don't have a master, then you're not an Eved. Only if you have a master above you. So according to Shmuel, it makes sense that they are completely upgraded. They have no owner and they become Jewish and they can marry and there's no problem. But according to Rav, that says he's Rav and Avrohom, so he's going to get shechur, even though they have no owner, but they shouldn't be completely Jewish. They're still an Eved. That's a kasha. Here, Tanakama says that they konu atzma b'nei chorin, which the Gemara understand means that they're also allowed to marry. And Abba Shalom, this is a side technicality. Abba Shalom, gedolim konu atzman b'nei chorin, but ketanim kolam maxi ben zachaben. A gadol, if he's already an adult, the Eved is an adult, so he has the power to make a kinyan. So as soon as the master dies, he makes a kinyan on himself automatically without doing anything, and he becomes his own master. But the ketanim, the minors, they don't have the call to make a kinyan, so they're still ownerless and have a piece of hefker. And somebody can come and take them as an Eved. That's a side point, not our issue. That according to Abba Shol, a katan cannot make a kinyan on himself, so therefore he's still hefker, and somebody can make a kinyan and take him as an Eved. But the Gedolim, everybody agrees that they make a kinyan on themselves automatically, and they go free. But the kasha on all this is, according to you, Rav and Avrohom, that they still need to get shechur, because of get shechur, how are they going to marry? They don't have a document of liberation, so even though they don't have an owner, but they still don't have that status of a Jew. They're still the status of a Jew.
It's known now that the Ger died, and they're on the list that they're free now, and they can be Jews. And I would suggest that they should be getting a letter from them.
The Bezdin is not anybody to make such a final letter because it doesn't. They don't own him. So that's the concept. Then maybe there's nothing to do. It's a problem. But Bezdin is not the Eitzah. Rav Shmuel says that they don't need to get shechur because someone that doesn't have an owner, his status is automatically upgraded. Rav and Avrohom says it's not automatic, so they need to get shechur. There's no one to give them a get shechur. That's the kasha. For these people, right? So that was the kasha that Rabbi, if we go back a little bit, that was the kasha that Rabbi asked this kasha. Rabbi asked this kasha. So Ula said, "That's a kasha. That's a kasha." This Talmud Chacham thinks that people don't know how to learn. Kila, you think yes, a kasha that you think people that don't know how to learn. It's not a good kasha. I think that's what he means to say. I think it means to say that you think people don't know how to learn in order to answer such a question. maybe the different translation.
Who's saying it's not a kasha?
Ula.
Huh?
This here is Esvei Babel Ula. This was the kasha, and here's where he told him, Amar. This is where Ula answered him, Dummy, I don't know if it means that he said that you seem to be like you don't know how to learn, or you seem to think people don't know how to learn. If anybody has a translation, I appreciate it. But he was saying it's not a kasha. But he didn't even bother telling us the teretz. Like he says that that's a kasha. This is a kasha, and he didn't even say the teretz. So I don't know what the teretz is. Isn't it a good kasha that these people, these avodim, that their owner died, the ger died, so who's going to give them a get shikra? Sounds like a great kasha. Even though, that's only a point if they're a side point. But the ones who do go free because they have no owner, they come to themselves, the adults, or the Ketanim point. So there's no get, so they're not allowed to marry. And it sounds in the Brisa that they're allowed to marry. So Ula said it's not a kasha, but he didn't tell us why it's not a kasha. So the Gemara has to help us out. The time of my was not going to reason why is it not a kasha. So I don't understand the answer there. That the Eved is just like his wife, the Ger's wife. When the Ger dies, does his wife need anything? No, the husband died. Avdo the Ger ki ishto, the slave of a Ger is just like his wife. Ma ishto, I don't know why I saying right before he didn't say that. Ma ishto mishtalcha below get, avavada mishtalcha below get. Just like the wife after the husband dies doesn't need any more because her husband died. She's a widow. So too the avodim, they don't need anything more because their master died. She doesn't need anything. She's married because the husband, who died, because her husband died. Like any widow that died.
What's the difference?
Yeah, there's no difference. But we're talking about Eved. And I don't understand what the answer is. Why is Eved like a wife? Yachi afil Yisrael nami. If so, how about if it's Judah?
He doesn't need it.
Why doesn't he need to get shechna?
Because it's the name of it. He doesn't use that.
No, we hold a mafkir avlo. So we say nothing like that. If somebody disowns his slave, a mafkir avlo, somebody disowned the slave. He's alive and well, and he disowned the slave. Does he need to get shechna? Yes. Yeah. But if he dies, forget why. What's the difference if he dies?
No.
When there's a mafkir, also there's no other.
There's no one in the for the barn.
So he decided I'm going to keep.
He's now because he's bound up. And annually, he didn't choose.
I'll go 2 lines more that the Gemara is going to ask. Yes. There are no Yoshim.
Yeah.
What's different? Well, what's the difference if someone was mafkir a slave? There's no owner either. What's the difference if he died or if he disowned him? If he disowned him, you do need to get shit. If he died, then you don't need to get shit. What's the difference? Yeah, so that's the question. That someone's mafkir, so it's from mama not special. So if he died, what happened to this? Yes, we're talking about what's the difference between mafkir abdo and a ger that died. Someone disowned. What's the difference? So how come when he dies, what happened to the Isser? There's no Baal when he's mafkir also. When he's mafkir, his slave also there's no Adam. He's not his Adam, he was mafkir him. What else does he own? What else? What does the master own as far as? Okay, something like that. The most the Kashiach Afil Yisrael Nami. If so, about a Jew that died, why doesn't his slave go free? Same way when a Jew dies, his wife goes, he's allowed to be married. So when a Jew, that there goes to the children, that they inherit their slave. How about this case? Everybody has an opinion over here. What if somebody disowned his slave and he died, and the master died? Because how about the ger that died? The ger that died. The Yoshim don't get anything anymore. Mafkir Abdo, the Yoshim don't get anything. If Yisrael owned it and then he died. So no Yoshim. A ger that dies, you're saying he does not need to get shechur because he died. This Jew also died, and before he died, he was mafkir the slave. So the Yarshim are not going to get him. Does he need to get shechur? Again, if then he does need to get shechur. That's why we're attacking those who said that he does need to get shechur. Shmuel said, right, that if you say that by a ger who died, he does not need to get shechur because he died. So the Jew who was mafkir a slave and died also should not need to get shechur. Yes. You're just making it complicated. Let's keep it as simple as we can. No, but without you're making a complication. But the way it is, it's what's the din? If a ger dies, you're saying that he does not need to get shechur. That's what everybody's taking. And a Jew who was mafkir his eved and then died, does he need to get shechur? You should say no. You should say no if you want to be consistent. You say because he doesn't have a master. The Yarshim didn't have. The Yarshim didn't have anything because he's mafkir. He's mafkir him. So the Yarshim, he's more rich the Isser. He's more rich the Bilos on the Isser. The Gemara doesn't think so. The Gemara later on is going to think so, I think. But so far the Gemara doesn't think so. He said, yeah. So the Ebed still needed to get shechur from my father. But so the Yarshin the schus to give a get shechur, that's called the Yerusha. People, the Yarshin Chova sometimes. What did the Yarshin over here? The Yarshin the schus to be able to give a get shechur, the Gemara doesn't think so. So according to you, that if there's no monetary and the master died, does not need to get shechur. So according to you, a mafkir avdu meis also should not need a get shechur. But Amema doesn't say so. Alama Amr Amema, yes. Alama Amr Amema, mafkir no, not Alama. Alama Amr Amema, mafkir avdu meis also everything with the kana. That Amema says differently. Amema says that if somebody disowned a slave and the master died, that slave has no way to get married. He can't marry a Jew. It remains in his eved status. So that's a kasha on you. Because if you say that a ger that dies, even if you're old, a mafkir avdo tzarich get shechur, but a ger shemeis does not need to get shechur. You should also hold that a mafkir avdo meis does not need to get shechur. And Amema doesn't say like that. Amema says mafkir avdo meis has no way to get mutter. To get rid of his eved status. And the one says kasha, Amema kasha, that's Saka kasha on that statement does not fit with Rav and Rabbi Yochanan, who are going to have to answer the brisa that a ger shemeis does not need to get shechur. According to them, they're going to have to say that somebody was mafkir his slave and he died. He does. What's that? I lost my train. I don't know what I'm saying. There's no way out of it. Amema says no way out of it. And Rav and Rabbi Yochanan should have to say that he does not need to get shechur. The same way they say that a ger shemeis does not need to get shechur, so they should also say mafkir avdu meis, and Amema doesn't fit it. So we'll stop here. Yeah. So we're a daf and a half behind. What's that? I think a daf and a half.